fine. So hi, everybody. I'm Christine Merrick. I direct the NatStart Alliance, and I'm joined today by Emily Van Land. She's our conference and communications specialist, and she's going to help run the forum today. Really happy to have everybody. We started these forums back at the beginning of the pandemic. Maybe some of you have joined for some of the past forums. Really, it's just as an informal way to keep everyone connected. And they've been really popular, really successful. So we're excited to keep them going, even as we see programs starting to reopen. And they're not just a way to keep you all connected with each other, but they're also an opportunity for us to hear from you all about how things are going across the field. We get a lot of questions at NatStart about how nature-based education broadly is doing at this time. And so it's really helpful for us to have these opportunities to kind of be able to check in with everybody to get a sense for how things are going. So we really appreciate this opportunity too. So the plan for how this goes, as I said, these are meant to be very informal. I'll just give a quick introduction, a little bit of background to kind of share back with you about some of the things that we've heard so far coming into this reopening forum. And then we'll hear from 3 programs. Another kind of shift that's happened over the last few months as we've been doing these forums is that when we started, they were strictly for discussion, but we found that people have found it really helpful to hear from some specific programs about how things are going. They like to hear just some concrete examples. So today we have 3 different programs that have agreed to come and share about how things are going. So we'll hear from them, and then there's time for Q&A. Another thing that we've learned over these past few months is that sometimes people want more time for discussion. So we've scheduled 90 minutes for this call. We know not everybody has 90 minutes, and that's perfectly fine. We'd like to have you as long as you can join. So this first 3 parts will take most of the hour. And then for those who have more time, who really want to dive into more discussion, we have time at the end for breakout groups for those who are interested in going there. So I mentioned I'd give you a little bit of background. We want to reflect back to you. You took some time to answer some registration questions when you signed up to join us today. We wanted you to see what we heard. First, we asked if you are open now or planning to open this fall, and more than 2/3 of you are now open or will be opening shortly. Less than 10% are not planning to open this fall. So quite a majority are open already. So this should be really interesting to hear how things are going. And then we also asked about your enrollment. This is another big question that we get a lot, just in terms of people trying to understand how things are going across the field. We hear about a lot of demand from programs. They say we're outdoor programs. People are really interested in our approach. We have a lot of demand. So we were curious to know what you're anticipating for enrollment. And about half of you are anticipating lower enrollment. Only about 15% anticipating greater enrollment as a result of COVID. And a very small majority are holding steady. So we thought that was really interesting. And lots of reasons why enrollment could be lower in terms of thinking about all the restrictions that we have now, particularly with distancing and trying to maintain lots of space between students. So we have to reduce capacity often to do that, keeping groups small. So there are a lot of reasons why enrollment could be down. So we thought we'd ask just a couple of quick poll questions. Again, kind of take a pulse and see, kind of get a little bit deeper. So Emily, could we pop up the first one?
Yes, and actually I think you'll have to hit it because it's the...
Okay, so my job. Okay,
yes, because you're the host.
So will everybody see both questions? Well, we're going to have to find out.
I think so, yes.
Okay, so we have 2 questions. Can everybody see them? Yeah. Okay, so the 2 questions. First, the demand, we're kind of curious. Are you experiencing higher than usual demand, same or lower? And then the second question is really about, we've heard a lot of programs describing that they're shifting to more outdoor time. So we kind of wanted to get a sense for what does that mean for your program in terms of the amount of time that you're spending outside each day. Okay, answers are still coming in. I'm gonna give it another few seconds. They're still coming. Okay, a few more seconds. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and end this. Can everybody see the results? Okay. Interesting. So looks like lower than usual demand is coming out on top by just a little bit. It seems like a pretty lower than usual is a little bit ahead, but a pretty big spread here in terms of how people are experiencing demand for their programs right now. And obviously lots of reasons why it would be higher or lower. A lot of reticence from folks about coming back to school just yet. So a lot of reasons why people would be lower too. And then the percentage of your day you're planning to spend outdoors. It looks like most of you are planning to spend almost all of the day outdoors right now, which is great and not totally surprising given our community already is pretty comfortable with spending a lot of time outdoors. So this isn't a big jump for a lot of people in our community, but definitely skewing more and more time outdoors. This is really helpful. Thanks guys so much. They go away, the poll results. Oh, did I not share them with you? Sorry, I thought you've seen yours. Okay, I can just stop. Missed out and close that. Okay, they're gone. The poll results are not gone. They are gone. Okay. All right, so those were really helpful. They're high-level questions. And we would like to hear more from you. So that's the purpose of the Google Doc that we have developed that I think Emily can share in the chat. So that's the purpose of the discussion time at the end of our time together. And we have a Google Doc that we created to capture your answers during that discussion time. But I know not all of you will be there, so we thought we'll make that available now for anybody who might not be participating in that discussion at the end, but has something that they'd like to chime in on. So some of these kind of deeper questions that we would love to hear more from you about, if you don't mind popping over there and putting in your answers, if you're not going to participate in the discussion later. So we're just kind of interested to know more about, are there positive outcomes that you're finding from making these transitions, especially as you're transitioning to more outdoor time and the changes that you had to make because of COVID? Your biggest challenges, what's been unexpected to you? I mean, we're all trying to think about every possibility, but certainly plenty of unexpected things have happened. And then any resources or particular products or tools that have been particularly valuable to you, just that you think that the community would like to know about. So thanks for that. So as I mentioned, the heart of why we're coming together is just to hear from some specific programs. Today we asked programs from across the country, different parts of the US, to share about what they're doing. All these programs are shifting to quite a bit of outdoor time, so we thought that would be instructive for everyone, kind of anticipating that people would be shifting toward quite a bit of outdoor time. We have Catherine Coons-Hubbard, who is the director at the Schlitz Audubon Nature Preschool in Wisconsin. Leslie Romanoff is the director and lead teacher at the Tacoma Park Cooperative Nursery School in Maryland, and Liana Chavarin is the founder and director of the Berkeley Forest School out in California. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to hand it over to Catherine to share with us about how things are going there.
Oh, okay. Thanks. I'm going to see about sharing my screen. Let's see, I am screen sharing, and sometimes this works for me and sometimes it doesn't. So let me know if you can see this. Let me bring this up nice and big. It's working?
Yep.
That's good. Okay. So let's go to the beginning. All right. Honestly, my pictures don't necessarily correspond too well with what I'm going to talk about, but it's nice to look at pictures. So we are Schlitz Audubon Nature Preschool in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So right now, actually, I'm trying to super focus, but my window's open and there is a preschool class taking place right outside my window, and they're happy and running around, and it's really sweet. We have been open as far as the school year goes since September 8th, but we actually opened back in June for 10 weeks of summer programming. So we really have been running now for 13, 14 weeks. So we started in the summer and decided to do a 100% outdoor model, and things were fantastic. It was probably one of the best summers we've ever had. We installed outdoor sinks. We kind of came up with a whole system for keeping the children outdoors all the time unless there was thunder or lightning, which we really never had. We decided to discontinue snack temporarily because we couldn't figure out a way to do that safely. So we kind of condensed our times down a little bit. And pretty much by the end of the summer, everybody said this was the greatest, best summer we've ever had. And I hope you realize by me building this up that what's coming next is that the last 3 weeks have been the most challenging we've ever had. So I'm sharing all of that basically because if you're in a really challenging place now, like we are, hopefully you realize you can actually get someplace great, which is where we used to be. And I'm holding on to that. And then also if you're in a really great place and things are going beautifully, it doesn't take much for the rug to get pulled out from underneath you. So we've really kind of, I think, experienced a little bit of everything. So I'm going to flip through to just show you some of the pictures. Let's see. So we have 3 outdoor classrooms. Here's a photograph that shows you a couple of them. One of the things we realized right away is how in the world do parents find all these outdoor classrooms? They're really hard to get to, and they're not coming into the building. So we had to post signs all around. We have a cardinal class, we have a chickadee class, we have a nuthatch class, we have a goldfinch class. So we now have these little laminated birds, and we constantly, as we move classrooms around every few weeks, we move the birds around so that people can find their way to their new classrooms. You know, we've had to have an incredible amount of new and improved outdoor gear, and that goes for the teachers as well. And I had to purchase all new waterproof backpacks. We had to think about getting pop-up tents because there's rain, which we're all used to, and then there's the kind of torrential downpours where you get soaked to the skin and it's cold, which was our whole first week of school. I think the temperature dropped 30 degrees, it downpoured, and we're not going indoors. And so for us as educators, it was really a learning experience. I think we felt that as nature-based early childhood teachers who've done a nature-based program for 18 years, that we kind of had this, but we realized that even just that one component of being able to go inside when you need to, by taking that away, we had to learn a lot as a team. So the gain there is that it's made teaching very exciting again, and it's made us really have to explore new approaches, which has been invigorating in a lot of ways. It's an opportunity to try things in a different way. For people who are maybe a little bit uncomfortable with change, that can be alarming, but it's also been very, very positive. For me, it's forced me to kind of redefine what success looks like. So for us, we actually have more children in our program than normal. We usually cap out at 144, and now this year we have 157. And we still have a wait list, and so we've even created a series that's running just in 6 weeks at a time, 2 days a week, called Nature Mornings, because we had so many people on our wait list who wanted something. So really we've got about almost 170 children in our program, which for me as a director is a lot to manage. Success is sort of no longer really, you know, how much revenue are we bringing in? Are our classes full? That's all nice and good, but really what we're looking at now is, are we meeting the needs of our community? Parents are calling just in tears because they're so worried about their children being home and on screens. And so we're trying to redefine success in terms of providing experiences that children just are currently being denied, as far as getting out and having these authentic experiences in nature. Doesn't matter if they learn about monarch butterfly migration. I think that's nice and I think that's valuable, but really we're much more interested right now in, are they connecting to each other and are they connecting to nature? We're also talking about success in terms of, are the teachers feeling supported? Are the children playing? Are they happy? Are parents happy? Am I, as a director, sleeping at night? So we're sort of just changing what our definition is. I think it used to be, you know, how many are on our wait list? How much are we bringing in? How many, you know, in terms of milestones and developmental benchmarks, how many of these are we kind of meeting? That's all sort of fallen by the wayside right now. And instead, we're just really talking about what's going on with children in their lives right now, and how can we help, and what's going on with us and in our lives, and how can we support one another. And if we can go home at night and feel like we had a good day, we're really just looking at that day. So I'm sharing some photographs just to show you kind of what our play spaces look like. These are now officially our outdoor classrooms. And we are learning how to take more and more things outdoors, and then how to also leave things indoors that we realize we just don't need. So we did this year create an additional classroom. We kind of threw it together, honestly, in about 2 weeks, because we had so many people who were interested. So here you see a picture on the left of one of our outdoor sinks. These are really just sinks that we bought from a company that sells to fishermen. These are places when after you've caught your fish, typically by the side of the river, you put your fish down and you dissect it and you measure it. And we put a temporary fence up out in the woods. We put some tree cookie circles and we created an additional classroom out there in just a couple of weeks' time. The picture on the left shows you another one of our outdoor classrooms. And then on the right, we're actually doing programming here for older students as well. So this is a little more of an indoor classroom that's just been dragged outside. So you even see the chairs that would have normally been inside, outside. So for all of us, it's new, it's different. It's got these highs and lows. I think there have been moments where we have just thought it was better than it ever could have been, and other days where we just feel defeated. So I think my big takeaway is that as the director, this is not up to me to manage and solve by myself. This is probably the most team building experience any of us have ever been through. And I think the success of your program really is going to come down to how much is everybody pulling together and on the same page in terms of the mission. So that's my big takeaway. And I'm going to now show you my final picture and stop sharing and hand it off to, I believe, Leslie.
Hi, how you doing? So I do have pictures, but I decided not to share them. It's good. The thing that I want to tell you right off the bat is that we're a half-day program, a parent cooperative. We're a small school, and we have a space, and we were mostly outside. So I have we are in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., so in an urban setting. I was just watching the rats and the squirrel decide who was going to get snack. And the squirrel won, just to let you know. And so the thing is that one of the things I would like to talk to you about is that my voice is really tired because it's really loud outside. So what happens is we've gone 100% outside. Before we were mostly outside. And I'll tell you that I was thinking about this in terms of a timeline. And when you think about COVID times, everybody's thinking, well, was that a month ago? Or no, it was actually 3 months, 4 months, 6 months ago. When we started out like this, our enrollment, we were fully enrolled in March. Up to, we had 19, 19, and 12, which is fully enrolled. So you can see that we're a small school. And then when COVID happened, and with each new news piece that came out, our enrollment actually dwindled. It started dwindling. We committed early on to 100% outside. We knew that that was the answer. We knew it was, but we just couldn't get liftoff with the families. What we did, we decided to commit. The board of directors, our parent parents and the board, the people who were still involved said, no, we're committing to 100% outside. The county actually committed with us. So we're in Montgomery County. The Montgomery County said, we want all the schools to open. We're going to give you money. So where our enrollment was down, we said, we're going forward with this. We're going to open. They gave us money. We bought outdoor sinks, that fishing sink. Love it. We've got 2 of them. I love those things. I want them everywhere. We have an outdoor bathroom. We have shelters. We have we have like gear for the children. We have gear for the adults and stuff we never had. We have walkie-talkies. We have all sorts of good stuff that we were able to buy with this grant money. And we reopened enrollment. We are now fully enrolled. The county actually lowered how many children we can have on site, and we're not a parent on site community anymore. So it's just staff and the children, but we're fully enrolled to that. And actually, we could actually enroll another batch of people. So we have a lot of interest in this 100%, even though we felt that initial, we can push forward, and we know actually confidently that we could enroll probably another class if we could invent one. The thing is that the state of Maryland is not like other states where they will say, we understand what outdoor education looks like, that it should exist. They still want seats inside a school. They want a building inside, that the children can go into, and we have that. But like that actually lowers the number of children we can have because our square footage is quite limited inside. So even though the outside, and we have parks near us, we can go outside, the state is going to always keep our numbers low. So it's a shame, because I would love to bring in elementary school kids. I would love to like reinvigorate this, but it's like just something that we can't do. So I also arrived at this place of one thing I knew I didn't want to do is I didn't want to move our classroom outside. Like I didn't want to create this classroom that looked like our indoor classroom. Outdoor, I wanted to create an entirely new program. And so one of the things that we've been working on is equity in nature. And so that's one of we're walking towards this, this conversation with our community and our greater community. We still hold things that are dear, like circle time and story time. But as I'm just telling you that like my voice is sore because just from talking, from reading a book. So instead of having auditory cues for things, the first thing that we did was we did visual cues. So can you see Miss Hen? She has a mask on. We're 100% masked here. So Miss Hen, when she's up perched with her mask on, it signals that the children should be playing. When the sloth is up with her mask on, it's time for story and circle. Lone wolf, no mask, time to eat. So when Wolf is up, it's time to eat. And I was amazed at how effective this was. And it was like really good because the children are learning scanning techniques. So instead of only looking for the close-up distance, and they're learning to look for the middle distance, and they actually know when Miss Hen is up from really across the play yard. So it's really nice. We have started taking children outside, outside the gate, because that's one of the things that we like to do. We like to make the children part of the community, part of the neighborhood. So we are now doing that as well. And so I do want to talk about rain, because you and I, we all know that it rains. Here in DC, it's actually heat that does this in, but like, so when it rains, it's a torrent. And we had that the first week of school. So it was like, yes, we had it the first week. So it was like, no, it's trial by fire, trial by rain. And it wasn't just a drizzle, it was a deluge. So what happened is that it started raining, and it was really raining, and the children were eating their snacks, and they're very happy. They're sitting on their little crates and they're eating snack. And then when we get up, we're done with snack, they put their foot down, and their boots, their feet went into floating mulch 12 inches deep. So it was like the rain was all collected there. And inside their backpacks, where their lunches were, was filled with rainy mulch. And I found out that I have this lovely backpack, my lovely thing that I keep everything in that I need. You have to zip it if you want it to be waterproof, because it was full of water. It was full of rain. So even though I would say that I have been going outdoors, I had all my gear on, that rain took us by surprise. And so, you know, investing in gear is really good. And my favorite thing that's happening this year is that when our enrollment dwindled, it was with the people who knew who we were. When we repopulated it with new people, these are families that did not come from other programs that were outdoors like ours. They didn't even come for a visit to the school. We had a virtual meeting that was held over Zoom to describe what we're doing. And these families said, we're in what kind of gear? And it's like, though, let me give you a list, right? And we got a discount, we got all this stuff. So the thing is that they were like, okay, but does the gear come on? Like, it was amazing. So we were starting from scratch with these people, and they are in both feet, all boots on, everything is on the ground, everybody's good. And that we made it through. I had to email all the families and said, please check your child's backpack. All the families were like, no worries. That was the best day ever. So there you go. Thank you so much.
That's great. And I love that we are, even though we hadn't planned this out, I love how Catherine's presentation kind of leads to yours, that kind of leads to mine. So thanks, Emily, for organizing us together. I have a Google slideshow here. Let's see. Okay. Am I allowed to share a screen here?
I think you should be able to. Are you having trouble?
Yeah, let's see.
Or if you have a link, you can always email that to me, and I'm happy to share my screen if that seems like it might work. And this is a good time to just remind everyone, I see some of you doing it already. If you have any questions, feel free to type those in the chat. Some of our presenters might be able to answer your question right in the chat, or we'll have time for Q&A in a little bit.
Leslie, someone asked in the chat if you would be willing to share your gear list with the group. Oh, you're on mute.
Just typing it up. I'm just typing it up. So I'll type it into the chat for the gear list.
Okay, can you see?
Oh, there we go, yes.
Great, and you can just tell me when to move along the slides.
So unlike the other two programs, our school has, so we've been 100% outdoors since we started, and in 2011 we started as a home-based daycare and had outdoor classroom days. We went out to the creek, to the woods, and then spent 2 days there, and then 3 days a week there, then 4 days a week there, and then we ended up just being completely outdoor forest school. And one thing that that's unique to our program, and that's common for a few forest schools, is that we don't have a specific place that we are able to add some of those things, like the fencing. We work on public land, so we work in either like local parks, in regional parks, city parks, farms, and other places. So everything we do is pack in and pack out. And now with COVID, of course, that means there's a lot more things to pack in and pack out, and a lot more things to consider. For example, like the fact that there are a lot more people coming out to the woods. and a lot more groups. And now we're learning to navigate sharing space in certain areas that we are, usually we were the only ones there. So our day, I saw someone asking earlier, our day is 9 to 2, and we work with, can you go to the next slide? We work with children between preschool and 5th grade. We have a ratio between 1 to 4 or 1 to 6 children per teacher. And we operate in pods of 2 teachers. So even though they have their own primary teacher, you could see on the image of the rocks here, there's one teacher squatting down wearing the black shirt, and then another teacher in the blue shirt there. So there's 2 teachers there managing and helping support each other's groups. As many of you might have experienced, there's a lot of children that are not, let's just say Zoom distance learning is not working for them. So we have quite a few children who have IEPs or a 504 plan or other needs, like extreme social needs. And so we have a lot of flexibility in our program and our ability to meet the needs of those children with these smaller group size. Another thing is that we have tiered tuition for all. So that means we don't operate with on a scholarship model. Everyone's tuition is based off of how basically the family's circumstance. We want to make sure that everyone's needs are met at this time, no matter their family's means. And we also want to make sure that in Forest School, this is a community that belongs to all of us, and it's not a space that people should feel that they're allowed into. So that's really important to us as well. And next slide, please. Oh, there. So here, this is from the first week of school. And yes, we do have play-based inquiry-led learning, and these are pictures of 2 different groups here. There's the preschoolers on the left. On the right, you see some of I think this is the 1st and 2nd grade combined classroom. And everything is built on relationships. This is something that we know. Relationships come first, relationships with ourselves, our community, and with the land. And our first job as teachers is to earn a trusting relationship from the children. And we recognize that children have been through so much, and they have had this great disruption in their lives, in their routines, in their people. And so we know that as we start the first week, especially as we're starting with masks on and in a new space and with children they might have never met before, it may take a little bit for us to earn their trust. And we need to consider the whole child, of course, and what lived experiences they may be bringing with them to Forest School. So some of them have some experiences with peers where it comes to bullying or things like that, or just their experiences with in elementary school, having their I guess they've been told what to do for every single moment of the day, especially these last few months where children haven't had much freedom. And this is what we're hoping to offer to more children. Next slide. And of course, because we had to meet everyone over Zoom before we saw them in person, we also had that approach with our Zoom relationships too. So before meeting in person, we wanted to support the children and allow them to play with Zoom, because that is developmentally appropriate. So we wrote our best practices for distance. We call it virtual connection and distance learning, because learning has that I don't know, that concept of like teachers in a performative kind of role. But no, we're just playing on Zoom. So we talk to the parents ahead of time, letting them know that, children, you can offer them a piece of tape to cover the little webcam if they want. Teach them that's how they can see you. It's like an eye. That's like the computer or the iPad's eye. You can cover it. It is funny. We played peekaboo a million times with the preschoolers on the left there. You could see some children peeking in from the side. You can see on the right-hand side, this is an elementary group of 3rd and 4th graders, and they're changing their backgrounds. They're playing around, and that's great. That's how they're just learning to engage, and they're able to see each other's faces without masks. And so this was before we met in person for the first day. And next slide, please. And here is one teacher did a slideshow presentation about themselves. So this is teacher Caroline. I want teachers to be their full authentic selves, and we're all connecting in our humanity as so many challenges are coming up for everyone. So this is teacher Caroline, who offered a Google slideshow to their class about ways they like to take care of their community. Next slide, please. And this is when we first started to meet in person. So we have these small groups. This is the preschool, or 2 different preschool pods. I should say we typically have, prior to COVID, we had about 30 children at any one given time. And of course, some of them were enrolled, 2 days a week, 3 days a week. So we had 60 families total, but about 30 present at one time. Now we have about 50 families, but everyone is enrolled full-time. And that means we have about 60 children, 50 families, and all with the small ratio of 1 to 4 or 1 to 6 or 1 to 5 too. And this is from our first week. So since a lot of these children have not had any in-person playmates, it was really sweet to see them connect in these small groups once again. And some of them are, some of them are familiar to one another, some of them are newer to one another. And I think that really helped to introduce their way back into a social peer group, to have these small sizes. Next slide, please. So this one, yeah, so here we have some children. These are some of the elementary age groups. And I just wrote, nature connection is crucial, especially in this time of separation from our usual community. And we can all nurture our connection with non-human community. And by doing this, we nurture our resilience as well. Next slide, please. And I say all of that because there's a lot of grief happening right now. And, all of the children, all of the families, all of the grown-ups, all the teachers, we're all holding so many emotions. We're missing friends, we're missing our relatives. There have been deaths in some of our families, and additional stressors on top of everything. Like for us on the West Coast, all the fires happening. Of all of our children, 4 of them returned this year. The last time we saw them was March. And then 4 of them returned this year having 2 homes with 2 addresses. Or some of them, because of job loss and income loss, they now live in a home with 1 or more families. So there's been a lot of change for the children, and we want to make sure that we hold space for that and let them know that no matter how big their feelings are, nature has space for them. Next slide, please. And that comes to, this is a picture of what was supposed to be our first day of school. This red sky day that you might have heard about, seen pictures of in the news, that was supposed to be our first day of school. That's our school. And that's at 8 a.m. and it was very dark and scary outside. And of course, as teachers, we thought, well, okay, how are we gonna, once we have a second day of school, or once we are finally able to meet in person, how can we help support the children as they are there relationship with nature and the outdoors is changing too. So this is scary for them, or for some kids it's scary. For some kids it's really cool. Some of them called it cloudy with a chance of meatball sky. You know, we all have our different ideas of what this is. And to get through all of these changes, we have to have the ability to adapt and resiliency. And next slide, please. And this is just some pictures. On the right, there's a story circle happening. On the left, you'll see a child who is poking their leg with a stick they just whittled. This is their first whittling project. And I wanted to include that picture because in our group, you know, a lot of the children, they haven't had a lot of freedom. They've been indoors with their parents, either, you know, overly supervised or just without that much space to explore, expand, experiment. And so in our groups, the children, they come up with their own community agreements as to what works for them, what is safe for them. And that's how they begin their work together in their first week. Next slide, please. So here's some just information on safety and hygiene. On the left, because I mentioned how we're pack in, pack out, we have to bring in water. So we have those MSR bags. They have a little drip spout, so she's washing her hands there, and there's a little spray bottle of soap. Sometimes there's a soap steward, someone who sprays all of the all their peers' hands, and then they all just take turns washing. And you'll see that they are all masks, but they're not staying 6 feet apart from each other at all times. And that's something that we as a community decided that we're not going to enforce. Of course, when they're eating and when they are having a mask break, which they're allowed to use, they're allowed to take whenever they'd like, then we just let them know where is a safe distance where they can go without their mask. And we also want to consider the emotional safety for children and how they're navigating that during this time when they're learning new ways of being together. And next slide, please. And yeah, oh yes. So when a child feels safe, secure in their community, they can approach the unfamiliar with curiosity instead of fear. We don't emphasize differences in our school because that implies a norm. That means you're different from the norm, right? Instead, we acknowledge all the ways of being. And so that means a child has one idea and someone says, I have a better idea. And we'll say, oh, wait, you mean you have another idea? I wonder how many ideas we can have to approach this, whatever it is. And we're helping to deconstruct that mindset of there's one correct way and everything else is quote unquote different. So here is one little buddy. This is their first time seeing a snake, and this beautiful gopher snake came through the classroom. And then we were able to find some of the shed snake skin and without fear, with curiosity instead. Next slide, please. And yeah, here's just a little bit on some of our kiddos. On the bottom right, you'll see this is what a typical morning circle looks like for the elementary. At the top, we want to make sure that children are able to still have those relationships, hold their friends' hands. We just talk about how we can wash hands first, wash hands afterwards. We wash hands before and after eating, blowing noses, all of those things. And with emotional safety, we want to consider rhythms and routines for children to rely on, familiarity. So we want to put children together who have a familiar teacher they already have a relationship with, or friends. And open communication with grown-ups, that's been pretty key for us. And the results are confident, capable humans feeling at home in their bodies on this shared earth in a community of many creatures. That's us too, right? all of us creatures. And you could see that thick fog there. We've been going through not any rain, but a lot of differences. Next slide, please. And when we talk about the creatures, we also talk about the grown-up creatures, right? This is our weekly parents and guardians and grandparents and all the grown-ups Zoom space. Every week, we started this in March. Every week from 8 to 10 on Wednesday evenings, we have our grown-up Zoom space, and that's sometimes we'll have someone come and talk about, you know, aggression for young children, or, you know, guest speakers, but a lot of times it's just the parents talking. And we're playing the big wind blows, which means like they say a statement and then you pretend like the wind is blowing you around, if that statement also applies to you. The next slide, please. And the grown-ups also include the teachers, because teachers, as we know, we are all going through so much right now. This is just a screen cap of we're doing some professional development through and we want to make sure that teachers are continued to not only be, you know, learning all these new COVID protocols, not only being meteorologists and air quality experts and epidemiologists, but also why we got into this work, right? We want to keep nurturing that part of ourselves too. Next slide, please. And we also want to ensure that the teachers have their needs met and are adequately supported. As you can see on the left, there's teacher Malia. This is a very difficult job we have, balancing on the rocks, managing all of the children, helping them have a respectful relationship with the creatures that may be crabs or snails down there that they're that they're engaging with. And we also want to acknowledge that we're all in this shared humanity, living through this devastating pandemic, historic wildfires, ongoing work in civil rights, and just heightened stress. One thing that we noticed is that we need a lot more subs this year than we have ever had. And that's not only because of COVID symptoms, we haven't had any of that, thank goodness, but we have had a lot of other symptoms arise, non-COVID symptoms arise for everyone, because we're all, you know, living through this stressful time with polluted air every so often, and that is just, it's affecting our immune systems and our mental health, emotional health as well. So I think there's one more slide. Ah, there it is. So if you'd like to email me, go ahead. I just wanted to say the last note is that the crucial and necessary role at this time in history is really difficult. And I want to thank you all for continuing to be in this work, even though it's way more challenging than we ever anticipated, of course. And raising children well is the best we have to offer for our future. So thank you all.
Thanks so much, Liana. That was amazing. I could see in the chat people getting so much inspiration from your program. We have just a couple of minutes for a couple questions, and I did notice a few people mention in the chat, and I saw it a lot in our Google groups, a lot of questions around wet weather, and it sounds like some of you have had some big experiences with that, and it seemed like in a lot of parts of the country, right at the beginning of school, we're faced with that. And I remember also from our Google groups, a lot of discussion about thermometers not working in the rain, questions about how well masks work in the rain. So I'm just curious if you had some quick thoughts about ways that you are managing the wet weather.
Can I, one of the things that we found out is that with the grown-ups, this works with the wet masks. Can you see it? It's like, and that holds the wet mask away from your face. With the children, we just changed out the mask a lot. So that was what we did during that rain day.
I'm excited to see that, because I've been wanting to try one of those. We're doing the same thing. Sometimes we do a disposable underneath and a cloth on top, and we just change them and change them out as much as we need to. The wet masks for us is actually a bigger issue. Is not really the rain at all. It's playing in mud puddles and stuff like that. And so we've had to really talk to parents about gear, and that includes more than one face mask in a day, so that they can when they drop the first in a mud puddle, they have a second one ready to go. And it's a learning curve, but that's helping a lot, just having another one or even a third on hand. Label those face masks.
I know that I was really, in the beginning, one of the things that scared me the most was the mask situation, until I came to one of these Natural Start discussions and saw that the children were wearing masks. That lifted a little bit away from that, and then it became a non-issue at all when the children showed up, because they'd all been practicing with them. And so it's like our state actually tells us how many masks the children are supposed to have. They're like 4 or something. So we had all that list in advance for the parents to have, and the children have been really good about it. They don't like lose their masks, and that was amazing. But yes, label everything, because we have an outdoor cubby that we built, but it's like we can't keep track of all that kind of stuff. So it's like, yeah, the labels are that's really important.
Yeah, I guess I would echo that the things that we thought were going to be big deals, like masks, turned out to be easy peasy. We originally said they only need to wear them when they're kind of being still, but when they're active and playing, they don't need to, or children under a certain age didn't need to wear them. And now everybody wears them, and they wear them all the time. And that was probably, of all things, our very easiest adjustment. I think everyone really underestimated the children.
Another question that comes up pretty consistently, and it's come up in the chat here, and I certainly hear all the time, is a lot of questions about what will happen in the winter when it gets really cold. So curious if you're making plans for that. Maybe Liana, that doesn't affect you quite as much, but sure.
I can answer for Wisconsin that's really been on our minds. We went ahead now and bought outdoor patio heaters we have 4 outdoor classrooms, and so we have one for each space. And we bought them immediately because I think they're going to sell out by the middle of October. And so our goal is to then create a warming station in every one of our outdoor classrooms so that kids can play, they can be dressed for the weather, they can bundle, but they can have an area where they can come over and warm up. And we have a land manager here who walked through with me, because I wanted to make sure that in putting an outdoor heater in a natural space, we were going to be able to do so safely. So that was good. So he walked through with me, and we found flat areas in each classroom where we can do that. And he even suggested that there's some that are like chandeliers that you can hang from trees, which I had not realized existed. So get back to us, but that's our plan for right now.
Yeah, and maybe if you, we had in the Google Docs products that you've come across that are especially helpful. If you maybe could share the link to any of those specific ones that you've come across, people might appreciate seeing that. Anyone else? Okay, and one last quick question. I know we don't have a lot of time left, but just quickly, because it's come up also a lot. I saw it today in the chat, and another question that I hear a lot is about going to the bathroom. It's something that comes up really besides COVID times too, but especially now. And Liana, I'm wondering if that's something that you guys in particular have worked out, because you're always sort of out, packing and back out.
Yeah, we, so there, like I mentioned, how we rotate a bit, we use a few different locations, and there are some areas where there is a nature pee option, but for the most part, we just rent porta potties. Boring answer, I know.
I saw that in a couple of other people had mentioned that they have the same solution also. That's great. Well, thank you so much, you 3. I just knew that it would be really valuable to hear from all your different perspectives. Your programs are amazing, and thanks for the offer for us to be able to check back in with you. That's great. You can bet that we will. Before we go into the groups, I just wanted to quickly mention that there are a couple of ways for everybody to stay in touch with us that I want to highlight. The first is our newsletter. If you don't get it already, be sure to sign up for it. I think Emily is going to share a link where you can do that. And our latest newsletter that went out last month was all about back to school and had a ton of great resources in it. And I just have a suspicion that some people might have missed it in all of the rush of getting back. There's a lot going on, so check it out if you haven't seen that specific one, and sign up for others going forward so you can stay in the loop. We're on social media, of course, too, but the one I wanted to really point out is our Google group, because I see there's a lot of questions that are going on in the chat that we didn't have time to get to, but that is a really amazing resource. People are asking and answering questions on there all the time. It's super duper duper helpful. So if you're not a part of the Google group, I encourage you to join this great community of helpful, amazing, wonderful people. I'm so impressed every day by the thoughtful questions people are asking and how quickly they get really thoughtful, helpful responses. So I wanted to draw everybody's attention to that. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Emily. Oh, there it is, to explain about the breakout groups. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you're dropping off now, that is completely fine. We totally understand. If you're staying for the breakout groups, then she's going to explain how they work. And then with everybody's left after that, then we'll be able to see how we want to organize everyone into the groups. But if you're leaving us now, thank you so much. And this recording will be available, and we'll share all these resources too.
All right.